is Ron Sparkman from Opportunity U, and today we have an amazing guest, and pretty much anybody that listens to any of these interviews is going to know the name that I'm about to tell you guys. This is Emily Calandrelli, MIT engineering graduate, Emmy-nominated TV host and producer of Xploration Space, author of the upcoming Adelaide book series, and correspondent for Bill Nye Saves the World. Emily's kind of all over the place, and especially she's really huge on social media. So, Emily, how's it going today? How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, and I'm sure that everybody's really going to be excited about this one. You have a rabid fan base, so we've got a lot of great questions. So let's just get started. First up, what really made you fall in love with space and science to begin with?
Yeah, I think I always really liked math. That was my gateway drug into STEM and engineering. I felt like I was good at math. I really enjoyed the crispness of it. I loved that there was always a very clear answer to something. I think history and literature, those types of classes befuddled me because it didn't seem like things were black and white. There was a lot of gray area and subjectivity, and I liked objectivity and knowing whether or not I was right or wrong. So I liked math, and then I remember being a high school senior, and I literally looked up the highest salaries for the people who, like, which majors made the highest salaries after you graduated. And across the board, it was all engineers. And so it was a natural fit. I was like, I would like to make money after I graduate, and I like math. So let's go into engineering. But then when I got to college, NASA had all of these incredible opportunities for students who wanted to pursue a career in the space industry. And that's what really got me excited, specifically about space stuff. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I liked math. I wanted to have a good job one day, but I was sort of lost. I wasn't one of those kids that wanted to be an astronaut since I was like 3 years old. So it was really, to NASA's credit, everything that they had done for students was what got me into the space industry.
And that's normally a major thing. Most people are so inspired by NASA, and in different ways. You never know. Like for me, it's astrophysics. That's what I'm getting into, and engineering. And there's all these people behind the scenes of putting people in space, putting a rover on Mars, that most don't realize just all the so much is available through NASA, and they're always so inspiring and such amazing people. And so you have a master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics, as well as a master's in technology and policy. But much like Bill Nye, whose show you were going to be on, and we'll get to that a little bit later, you decided to educate and inspire people by doing science communication. So obviously you were, I want to make money, and then you said, you know what? I want to do something different than the regular science career. I want to be a science communicator.
Yeah, so how it happened was when I got to MIT, I had this idea that I wanted to get my PhD in engineering. I think a lot of students go into grad school thinking that, and then you learn along the way that not every career requires a PhD. And if it doesn't require a PhD, working like 6 to 8 years on a PhD may not be worthwhile. So for me, I found another master's program that I was really excited about called the Technology and Policy Program at MIT. And that master's program taught people with an engineering background how to communicate science and technology and a lot of these really can be complicated concepts to a layperson, to a policymaker. So it taught me how to analyze scientific issues, find what was actually the most important part to convey to somebody who would be influencing policy. And then when I was graduating from MIT looking for a job, I got an email from an Emmy-winning production studio that was like, we're looking for a woman who has a strong background in aeronautics and astronautics. Would you like to be the host of an outer space show? I thought, well, that sounds pretty awesome. Yeah. And I had just spent the last 3 years learning how to communicate science rather to policymakers. And then this was just a switch to communicate policy to families and kids. So there was definitely a lot of transferable skills on any job I was going to do. And so, yeah, I ended up in TV, and I felt like it was pretty related to what I had been studying for the past few years.
So yeah, so your television show, Xploration Outerspace, is it's amazing, and it's great for kids, and you get to kind of really do a lot of things that just really kind of get to show people what all you can be involved in, especially kids that love space and science. You actually visited with our friends at Project Possum, who was right up the road, and they are going to do an event, actually a whole class here at Space Foundation coming up this summer, actually in a few weeks. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of how that show came about for you, like how you put it together, what it is you wanted to do, and then what is your personal goal for the show?
Yeah, so I would say my personal goal for the show is to prove that the space industry is more exciting today than it has ever been in history. And it was funny because after our first season, we had covered 13 different major topics, like things like going to Mars and then going to the moon and then space tourism and rockets. And I thought, oh my God, what are we going to cover in the next few seasons? Like, we've covered all of the big space topics, and you don't realize all of the new stuff that is constantly happening in the space industry. I have been surprised to find, and pleasantly surprised, that we have never run out of cool topics to show off. There is new stuff happening all the time. I am constantly being emailed by my friends in the space industry who have pitches, who have really cool projects that they want to pitch to me to be like, you should show this off in your show because this is awesome. So that's the goal, is to show off all of those projects and to prove that the space industry is just like freaking awesome right now. And to do that, we travel to all the different NASA centers and private space companies and various universities. We've even done a few high schools to show off some of the really inspiring projects that are happening today. So I've gotten to do a lot of really cool things because of that.
And it feels like you really have kind of found that niche, and there's so much out there to show, and you guys do such a great job of it, and you can tell you're enjoying every minute of it. You don't stop smiling, which is always a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell that you're just as immersed in it as anybody else would be. It's just like we're big kids going to do a lot of this stuff. And so there's one of the things that you kind of do that's kind of throws people a little bit off, and that was your TED Talks, especially the one on space. When I first started watching it, somebody sent it to me, and I started listening to it, and I wasn't really quite sure where it was going. And the name of that one is Space Exploration is the Worst. And it kind of seemed to want to throw people off kilter, that maybe they're like, oh, this girl gets it, and then they get on there and you show them really what it is they're missing. So what inspired that idea, and how did it help you change people's minds to the importance of the space industry?
Yeah, so for that TED Talk, I knew that if I wrote something that was like, reasons why space exploration is worth your tax dollar, nobody would watch it. Or the only people that would watch it are the people that I would be preaching to the choir to. And so I wanted to reach people who would find a unique take on that topic and be intrigued to listen to it. So if I could just get a few of those people that aren't on the bandwagon per se, to say, like they support space exploration, if I could get a few of those people to listen to that talk, then I had done my job. I basically just wanted to do something unique and weird and see if I could get more people to listen to it. I think it was maybe a little bit too tongue-in-cheek. Now that I look back on it, it's hard to tell that I was being sarcastic. But all in all, it definitely, I would argue it got more views because it was weird and tongue-in-cheek than if I would have said something like, these are the 5 reasons why space exploration is the best,
So did it work? I mean, did you get like people that normally wouldn't consider it a viable source for their tax dollar? Did people come up to you and say, wow, okay, now that once I got past the joke and once I realized that you were being a little sarcastic and a little wink wink nudge, were you able to convert people?
It's hard to say because it's all online, and yeah, I mean, according to the YouTube comments, everybody hated it. So it's sort of hard to actually, you can't judge anything by what's said in the YouTube comment section, which is like the armpit of the internet. Mm-hmm. So you just got to take it for what it is. It was like a weird talk. It got like 50,000 views or something, which, that's probably more views than it would have gotten regularly. So I'm assuming that it reached the people that may not have watched it otherwise.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So beyond your TED Talks, you have even grown beyond even the TV show. Now you're going to be on Bill Nye's new show, which we're all waiting for with bated breath. So you're part of the team. You're one of the correspondents. Bill Nye Saves the World for Netflix. So what is it that we can see from what you're going to do? What are your segments going to be, and how'd you get involved in it?
Yeah, so I did a few segments. I have to remember what I'm allowed to talk about. So I think it's obvious I have a segment on space. That's like my niche. So I cover a really unique space topic that I'm excited to share. I cover like a small company that is hoping to be the first private company to land on the moon. I can't, I guess, really say which company that is just yet. But I am really excited for how all the shows turned out. We cover everything from like genetically modified foods to gene editing to artificial intelligence to space exploration. Like it's the whole gamut of topics. And we talk about the myths that exist on these topics. We talk about the future, the possibilities, the dangers, the risks, the excitements, the positive sides of everything. I think in general, it is a good show to start a conversation. And I'm really, really excited for people to see it.
It sounds like it's also going to kind of do what Cosmos did when it came out, and it's going to break the internet a little bit. There's a lot of those controversial topics that people in the science community talk about and take kind of seriously, but on either side of the aisle that people have their worries about, I guess you could say. So I'm glad it's going to start a conversation. Let's hope that it ends up being the right conversations and that people learn from it. And especially when it comes to GMOs and many of these other myths that we are inundated with on a daily basis on social media. Let's hope that changes.
Like they, in the show, they definitely make it very clear where the science lies. So that is wonderful. I think that that's good. I think what's especially interesting and exciting is that they don't just acknowledge the fact that there's people that don't believe in the science, but they dig into why that is. And I think that is so important to understand the human thinking behind why a seemingly logical person denies scientific evidence. That is the little nugget of really valuable information, I think. So the fact that the show is able to dive in to those reasons why, I think is going to be the best part of the show.
That sounds amazing. I was already wanting to binge watch, but now I certainly will want to. I can't wait to see how you guys approach that. That's going to be incredible. And another way that you're reaching out with STEM education and really kind of getting to not just the adults and everybody that's going to watch the TV shows that you produce, but is your new children's book series that's coming out. The first one comes out this summer, Add a Lace on the Case. So what inspired you to write what seems like it will be a smart STEM-filled children's series, and what can people expect from it?
Yeah, so the point of the book is to put a new type of STEM role model in front of kids. Because right now, I've talked to a number of parents who are trying to find really cool books for their daughters. That is an adventure book or a tech book or like an innovation type book. And all of those books that currently exist today, or basically all of them, have little boys as the lead character. And so I wanted to create a book that had a female role model for kids, for boys and girls, to see that it can be very normal for a girl to just absolutely love science and technology. And that was the motivation for the book. And now it's turned into this wonderful, wonderful world of Ada Lace and her friends and her robots and her gadgets and all of these things that she creates to solve mysteries and solve problems around her. So I'm really excited for the book to come out. We've finished the first 3 in the series. Right now, there will be 5 total. So it's gonna be pretty cool when it comes out.
That's incredible. And we're certainly more like that. There's not really a whole lot reaching out that really shows that everybody can be interested in space and science, and everybody has the capacity to learn it. It's really big, and it's something that also that you are big on. It's something that you talk about on social media a lot. Sometimes it gets different reactions, but it's really big for women's equality, and especially for women. Women in STEM is something that's become this really a huge movement, as it should, talking about everything from equal pay to being treated correctly in the workplace. And now and even in the past, a lot of people kind of had their eyes open because of Hidden Figures this last fall. It just kind of gave people a little look into the way that sometimes people just don't really realize the contributions that everybody makes to this industry. So when did this become something that really stuck out to you as an issue that you wanted to champion? And what does being a woman in STEM mean to you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I was in high school, I didn't realize that STEM was a male-dominated field. I just wasn't introduced to that concept. There were an equal number of girls and boys at my high school that loved science and engineering and were really good at science and engineering. And then when I got to college, I was one of maybe 2 girls in a 50-person engineering class, and I was baffled. I was like, where are all of the girls that loved science a year ago? Where did they go? And I think the idea that it is a male-dominated field, it feels like a boys' club, and it feels like you're not welcome. So even if you do have an interest in it, you're going to be turned off because nobody wants to feel like an outsider. Nobody wants to feel like it's going to be even harder to belong. Kids have enough to deal with belonging and feeling a part of, like, they're a part of something. They don't need anything to add on top of that. So for me, I think the way to combat that is to start younger and get even more girls excited about STEM so that it becomes less and less of a boys' club as they get older.
And especially, coming from West Virginia, I remember growing up that not many people really talked about science or any of that in school. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot has really changed there. I've got friends that have, their daughters are in school and they're interested in it. And one friend in particular even told me that a teacher had mentioned that girls aren't good at science or math. And that shocks me that even in this day and age, we're still hearing these things, these ideas that not everybody can do these things. So it's fantastic that we have a role model like yourself that's out there that's, just pushing all of it. Just, look what you're capable of, and look what you've done, and everybody, should be able to follow their dreams and do what they love. And so thank you for being the role model that you all are, Thank you. So next up, we're going to go to the Opportunity U fan base. Here's the questions that they have regarding a little bit of everything. So the first one comes from Sebastian Leon, and he's from Beyond Our Site. Sebastian wants to know what the average person can do to get involved in science communication.
I think right now social media is such a powerful tool for anyone and everyone to get involved in science communication. It's definitely a fun challenge to communicate science on social media because you have to do more than just share a link or an article to get people excited about something. My strategy is always to try to summarize what has happened in a tweet or in a Facebook post or something like that, because everybody has a short attention span and they want bite-sized information. And if you can be the person that really translates something complicated in a bite-sized format where people can still get the gist of what's exciting about that, it's a fun challenge and it's a fun way to distribute scientific information. So I would encourage everybody to just leverage their social media platforms, but not only that, but meet the other people in your niche that are doing the same thing. For me, I have a list of space enthusiasts that I follow constantly, that I'm influenced by, that I speak to outside of social media. And knowing your community, I think, is really important, because then you can kind of grow with them and learn from them and kind of just siphon off the best tactics and strategies for science communication from people that have come before you.
Awesome. Great answer. So next up we have Daniel Cantito from Rebel Aerospace, and he wants to know, as a speaker of STEM and space exploration, what are some new campaigns or movements out there to empower people and communities to be more actively involved in STEM?
There's a lot of, I would say, like Black Girls Code and things like Code with Clossie, Carly Kloss's coding program. There's a lot of efforts to get younger students excited about STEM. For older students, I guess things like makers fairs and maker studios would be a good outlet. I've been meaning to try out a maker studio in San Francisco. I just haven't had the time to do it, but that sounds like a really fun way to exercise your STEMliness as a hobby when you're not busy doing your day job. But yeah, I try to support things like that. Whenever I hear of a cool STEM related program for kids, I always try to make sure to share, to donate, to do anything I can to use my platform to support it and give it even more visibility. But yeah, for myself, I need to do, I'm like looking for a STEM project. I have my eyes on maybe like launching a high altitude balloon sometime in the near future, because because I'm in science communication, it's hard for me to get my hands dirty and do technical things a lot. And I'm kind of craving it. So I'm looking for my next STEM project.
Excellent. And I think that hashtag STEMliness should be something that it becomes a thing. I think that's going to be the next big Instagram hashtag.
That's great.
So next up, author Jeff Gagne, who himself just finished a book with a young girl as the female lead in his STEM-based novel. He wants to know, since you've written Out of Lace, what are your insights on some of the best ways you've seen to get younger kids interested in STEM topics?
So the best, most effective way I've found is by putting role models in front of them that look like them. So for minorities, for women, if you can find a YouTuber who talks about science, or an author that or a character in a book that looks or sounds like them, that I think is the most effective way, because it's just something about, listening to somebody or reading about somebody that looks like you, that makes everything they do feel more relatable. So that's what I do when I go and give talks to women or to minorities. I always find a diverse set of YouTubers that I can point to be like, you guys should subscribe to their channels because they talk about science and they're awesome and they're just like you. So that's what I found to be the most effective, because people are really excited to learn about those people.
And I think that's such a great point, because there's so many different faces out there now that are doing things that it used to be the same kind of style of person. And now, one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name in science right now, is Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he didn't, it's just the difference was a generation ago, it was Carl Sagan, who very much looked like your everyman. And now it's, the 6'3", Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's the guy that inspired me. And there's so many people that are out there, and it's very similar to to yourself and the guys that are doing SciShow and that they're just a little bit different. There's people with tattoos and piercings, and they're younger or they're older. We've got so many teenagers that are doing it. Everybody's out there, and there's just the ability for you to find that face, and I think that's a great point. So next up, Megan Owen. She is a geologist and creator of Nerdy Girl brands, and she asked another Adelaide question. You have a section in the back that's dedicated to elaborating on the scientific ideas that you discuss, essentially creating scientific literacy. Do you have any recommendations on how to encourage scientific literacy in adults?
I guess for your everyday person, reading is the best way to do that. Like reading articles. But if you're in a STEM field, kind of the constant learning is helpful. The best way to make sure that you are in fact learning something is to teach it to somebody else. So whether that means, you're in a STEM field and you go and do outreach to kids to explain something that you've learned, that will force you to learn it really, really well. Or if you're not in a STEM field and going and doing outreach to schools doesn't make sense, learning about something online, reading an article, and then talking about it to your friends is such a good way to make sure that you can remember that and make sure that you can understand that, and then have that conversation with somebody else. So basically, not trying to learn in a silo. Learning about science stuff and talking about it to others or teaching it to others is a really great way to just kind of make sure that you are scientifically literate and you're a lifelong learner.
Fantastic. And for anybody that's got science museums near you, volunteering is great. That was one of the things that I realized that, wow, this is such a great way, and it's addictive. You will not get tired of teaching children about it, and they have the best questions ever. They will continue to inspire your love of science if you do that. So highly recommend that. So finally, there's a final couple questions here. So do you have any advice for burgeoning scientists that you're a source of inspiration to? What would you say to them if they're maybe chasing their dreams and kind of, maybe a little worried about it, maybe a little scared of the future? What do you have to say to them to kind of, maybe keep them going?
Well, I think scientists are working to answer some of the most profound questions of our time. And when you are answering a question that's never been answered before, that's expected to be hard, and that's expected to be a challenge. I think those people should know that they are the ones that are the changers of the future. They are shaping the way that we view the universe and our place in it. And that's a pretty great responsibility. That's a pretty great role to have in the span of things.
Awesome. And those are great words. And so what do you have coming up next that maybe people aren't aware of? The TV show, Bill Nye comes out this coming Friday or next Friday? No, this Friday. Yeah, this Friday. Yeah, this Friday. Yeah, right around Earth Day and the March for Sciences and everything. So it's just a perfect time for it to come out. So what else do you have going on? The new book and all that fun stuff.
So right now we're working on books 4 and 5, the last 2 books of the Ada Lace series. And the Bill Nye show coming out, if enough people watch it, we'll get a season 2. So make sure you tune in on Friday. And we are finishing filming our 4th season of Xploration Outerspace, which will premiere in September.
And you also have another student astronaut contest announcement coming up at the end of the month, right?
Oh, yes. So that's actually coming up not a week from today. It'll be next Monday. And we are announcing a very, very exciting nationwide contest where we are going to give a very cool prize away to one student who wins. So make sure that if you are a student over the age of 18 in a STEM major, that you are paying attention to my social media next week.
Is there an age cap on that? Because I'm a STEM student, so just want to check.
There's no age cap. No age cap. You just have to be over 18 and enrolled in a STEM major of any kind.
Awesome. So speaking of your social media, let's wrap up with that. Where can people find you on social media and your website?
I am at the Space Gal on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and www.thespacegal.com.
Awesome. Emily, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an incredible time talking to you, and I know that there's going to be plenty of people that are inspired by the things you said today. So thank you once again.
Good talking to you.
You too. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next episode.